Welcome to the Your Illini Nation pregame show. We are live here at Mackey Arena. Bret Beherns along with Derek Piper from Illini Inquirer getting you set for a great game tonight. Number 3 Purdue hosting number 13 Illinois, Derek, in a top 15 matchup. This is one I had circled from the beginning of the year. I am pumped up to be here tonight and see what these two teams can do. And it only makes it better that 22 days ago they faced off in Champaign and Purdue left with a double overtime win and an instant classic. Let's just repeat that again tonight. I know Illini Nation would like Illinois to walk out of here with a win tonight. Man, I'm ready. You ready? We still got an hour to go. That's the bad part.
Yeah, I know, right? You couldn't ask for anything more in terms of a rematch of two teams in the thick of the Big Ten title chase, two teams that think they have the chance to go on a deep, elongated tournament run, maybe potentially to the Final Four, and one of the best environments in college basketball as well. So this is what college basketball is all about, the best of the Big Ten, and a lot of high-level players, high-level teams in this floor tonight. Very excited to see them do battle once again.
Yeah, we're going to break it all down here in the next 20 to 30 minutes on our pregame show. Thanks so much for watching. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, our app as well, or on our website, WCIA.com. Appreciate everyone tuning in and getting settled in for this one tonight. A little bit of a late start, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock here on the East Coast time in West Lafayette. We're not that far. This is the closest trip that we make all season, only about an hour and a half over here to Mackey Arena. And you said it, Derek. I know we talked on Saturday at Indiana that was your favorite arena. This is my favorite arena in the Big Ten. It is so loud in here. It holds 14,000 plus. They're expecting a sellout crowd tonight. All the tickets are gone. But it's just so loud. I mean, I think this is louder than Assembly Hall at Indiana. It also feels smaller to me. You look around, I do see a smattering of orange here throughout the crowd. You look up and it's not that far up, or at least it doesn't feel like it. There's not a bad seat in the house here.
No, there's not. It's like an intimate environment, very loud. One of the best student sections in the Big Ten, certainly. They're all the way up to the top of the building behind both baselines, really. So they're showing strong here tonight. And really, since Matt Painter got that thing going, Carson Edwards, Ryan Klein, really the last but I think Purdue is 23-2 here since the start of last season, so they built a nice little streak here. Wisconsin came in and got a win. Illinois is hoping they can do the same, but this is a place that is very, very challenging to get it done.
Purdue 20-3 this season. All 3 of their losses have come in Big Ten. They started out in the non-conference very strong, ranked number 3. They've been in that top 10 ranking pretty much all season. But what have you taken away from those 3 losses? Because they lost early, and it allowed Illinois to jump out on top in the Big Ten, and Illinois comes into this game tonight with a 1-game lead in the Big Ten standings over Purdue. Now, that could equalize. Wisconsin also in there as well. They're playing right now at Michigan State, so a lot to be determined by the end of the night, Derek. But they kind of gave Illinois a little bit of a gift, I think, early on this season. What'd you make of their 3 losses?
Yeah, they did. I mean, losing here to Wisconsin, Johnny Davis goes nuclear. Like, if that guy's going to go for 37 points, it's certainly tough, but that kind of speaks to a little bit. I mean, that's a very, very talented player, but Purdue's defense isn't very good. You look at their analytics, they're outside the top 100 defensive efficiency. They go on the road to Rutgers. Illinois is going to have that same test here coming up next week, but Ron Harper Jr. hits an epic shot to beat them on the road, and then right after Purdue getting the victory in Champaign, turns around and loses at Indiana. So I think that defensively you're looking at them as being susceptible, not getting enough stops. They've had a hard time, even in their last 5 wins, of closing games. That's kind of been a narrative here recently with this Purdue team, is putting teams away, and really that was part of Illinois pushing them to the brink and going to double overtime. Curbelo making spectacular plays down the stretch. So I think their defense not being really at the level of Illinois, but a lot of other teams, and then closing the door at the very, very end has been some things that have made them beatable, and I think that Illinois will look to take advantage of that tonight.
Yeah, I think points are going to be aplenty tonight, just like it was in the double overtime game in Champaign. And as a fan, that's what I want to see. Like, you know, if I'm watching this game just as a fan, I want a lot of offense. I want these teams to go out and put up. I want to see Jaden Ivey, and that matchup defensively, and what do we expect there? I want to see, Edie and Trayvion and Kofi, and I want to see all these guys score. So someone who's just watching the game tonight, man, that's what I'm looking forward to. Like, defense, we'll have that another game, right? Let's have some scoring tonight. And I think it's setting up for that.
Oh, man, you can make a long list of guys that can really shoot it from 3 in this battle. You got some high-level guards, Jaden Ivey, Trent Frazier putting on a great case. If he's not it's going to be tough for him to be first team All Big Ten, but second team All Big Ten, very, very deserving. And then, of course, the big guys. I mean, on a short list of the best bigs in the country, Kofi, and then just the duo of Trayvion Williams and Zach Edey. And Zach Edey got the best of Kofi, really in a convincing fashion. I know that Kofi took 2 shots to the head from the elbows, and that maybe affected him a little bit. But to foul out of that game, to have season lows in points, rebounds, he's going to have to bounce back. 20 points and 8 rebounds, and really dominated that game during his minutes on the floor.
And I remember that game 3 weeks ago that Edey dominated early. I mean, it wasn't close early. Edey was the best player on the court, even more so than Jaden Ivey, who had a little bit of a tough night, made half of his points off free throws, if I remember that night, or at least close to it. And he's a high-volume free throw shooter, going to draw a lot of fouls. But let's break down this big man matchup first. Like, I thought you give credit to Zach Edey. He was just better than Kofi. But what can he do now? What can Kofi do now coming back in this rematch? We asked him on Saturday after Indiana. He's pumped up. Like he's looking forward to this because he knows as well, and this is how I view it, if he's going to win Big Ten Player of the Year, he's got to play well against somebody like Zach Edey.
Yeah, certainly. And even you're looking at the Wooden Award, National Player of the Year, ESPN, highly ranked matchup where a lot of national attention is going to be on this game. And I'm not saying that Kofi is, in terms of this being a revenge spot for him, I'm not saying he's looking at Edey and saying that anything malicious necessarily happened with the elbows or anything like that. But he's going to want to respond, just being the competitor that he is. And he's got to stay out of foul trouble. That's first and foremost. It'll be interesting to see the way this game's going to be official. That's always kind of when you have big guys that are banging on each other all game long, how that's going to ultimately be called. And Purdue, with their 2 centers, in more of a position to withstand if one of them were to get in foul trouble. I would say that from an offensive standpoint, it's a tough ask for Kofi to back down Edey because he's 7'4". Because when you're looking at him, he's actually the one big guy out there that makes Kofi look normal sized. So him not being able to out physical, overpower him, at least easily. I'm not saying you can't go to him on the block. I just think he's got to be a little bit more patient with his moves, maybe try to create some angles and be able to do all that. But I think the best way for Illinois to attack him is in the pick and roll. To try to get Kofi rolling to the rim, let Curbelo or Trent Frazier make a decision whether they can throw that lob or get to the basket and put Edey on the move. I think that's one thing that Illinois didn't do enough, particularly early, where Edey was able to get comfortable in that game, being just kind of stationed in the paint and kind of a big-on-big matchup. You got to put him in some actions, make him move, and then defensively, Kofi's got to be able to do a little bit better job of challenging him, whether that's anticipating the move or walling up better, because a lot of things just came too easy for him.
Yeah, and I want to see Kofi be more aggressive. I'm not saying it's malicious like you said, but body him up, be aggressive. Kofi's not giving height on many people. He's giving 4 inches to Zach Edey. You've got to be aggressive with him. You've got to body him, and I think that's an interesting point. And I was checking here, Derek. I had no word on the officials yet. I had a couple people tweeting at me, wanting to know where the officials are. I think it was.
I've seen the list. There's no Bo Borowski. So
okay,
so take a deep breath.
You don't know who?
I know DJ Carson Simmons.
DJ Carson.
He was on that call in Champaign. The other 2 are not from the same not Scarrato, not the names you know for the bad reasons. I would say that.
I think a lot of Illini Nation was like preparing on how much intake they should have tonight, or how much they should be throwing the remote at the television, so to speak. If there was certain guys that were on the call tonight. All right, so I think DJ Cardinson, what I call him the Scott Van Pelt lookalike.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will recognize him. And all right, so there we go. Derek giving us the scoop. The guy's not out here on the court yet. And I want to see how they officiated. I thought they let him bang pretty much at Indiana, which I like to see. Let him be aggressive. And I thought they let him bang in the first matchup between Illinois and Purdue. And I don't mind that at all. Let those guys go out and play, be physical, be aggressive, and play the game of basketball without all the ticky-tack fouls. All right, we saw Zach Edey pretty much take over the first game. Trayvion Williams came on late in that game, and he is way more skilled in a sense than Edey. What's the match there between those 2 guys? Because they have a 1-2 punch, really unlike any other team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it makes it tough on Illinois' depth to get good minutes out of an Omar Payne or a Benjamin Bossmans-Verdonk. To his credit, really battled Trayvion well, and there was a stretch of that game where Kobe was in foul trouble and Trayvion was matched up with BBV, and it was hard for Trayvion to move him and be able to score on him in the post as much as he really wanted to. Now later in that game, Trayvion made some really good plays. He's a phenomenal passer. He might be the best passing big man, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country, and they like to put him towards the top of the key or off the elbow, and guys like Stevanovic can really cut well off of that, and they just create easy opportunities, whether it's him finding shooters in the corner or cutters to the basket. That's just kind of the contrast where Edey's going to do all of his work in the paint, and Trayvion can be a facilitator, a point big man almost at times. Now, if he's out there with Kofi can try to back him down because he's going to have the size advantage. But, man, it's such a luxury for them to have both those guys, for Trayvion to really accept that role of coming off the bench. And it makes it really, really tough when you are a backup big man to try to face someone that is all Big Ten caliber.
Yeah, and you said you want to see Kofi be a little bit more patient with Zach Edey. I want to see him go right at Trayvion Williams.
Yes.
Force him out of position defensively and get to the basket. Don't hesitate. We've seen Kofi be really effective when he doesn't hesitate, just rolls right to the basket or his drop step move and just go right at it. I think he can be way more aggressive if he's matched up against Trayvion Williams. The other thing I want to watch in this big man matchup, Derek, is how they mix rotations in personnel. When Edey goes out, does Kofi stay in? Can you mix and match that a little bit more and see where we're at with that? All right, Brad Underwood told us yesterday he's more concerned about Sasha Stevanovic. 5 threes in that first matchup against Illinois really, really hurt them. How do you kind of contain him a little bit, make him uncomfortable, and who do you expect to guard Sasha after that first matchup?
I think Trent will draw the primary assignment. I know that watching back on the film, it was in terms of Ivy. So Ivy in transition in the open floor is really, really hard to contain. And Illinois did an interesting thing of when it felt like a break, Trent would pick him up because he has the quickness. Is something that DeMonte doesn't quite have in terms of just saying, okay, Trent, we think can stay in front of him. Maybe he picks up a charge.
Sure.
But if it's in the half court, it was DeMonte drawing Ivy and Trent chasing around Stefanovic. I think that you're hoping DeMonte does a really good job on Ivy, who's operating a lot more pick and roll here recently. It put Ivy in more high usage situations. Can he handle his job there? Because you want Trent, who in the past has done a good job on Sasha, being able to limit his space from 3, not give him those open looks coming off the screens. And this is not, to Brad was pointing, it makes complete sense. I was looking up, last 22 times Sasha scored in double figures, Purdue's won 21 of those games. So he's a huge, huge key to being able to have Purdue come out on top, and you just can't let Purdue offensive rebound because they kick it back out to Sasha for 3s. But really got to check him in transition and just make sure that he, even 2 steps behind the line, is not feeling any kind of comfort. Yeah,
and I think that's the thing with Trayvion to me that stands out, Derek, is because he's such a good passer, if he can rebound, now he's kicking back out, and they're going again and getting those put-back buckets, which can be really, really deadly for Purdue and against Illinois in that sense. Jaden Ivey, we've seen him be really, really good. I think we both agree he's a lottery pick in the NBA draft this coming June, but where do they kind of pinpoint him? He's going to get his. If Sasha's going to get his a little bit, how do you kind of balance all of that in between? Because if they all go off, you're not walking out of here with the win if you're Illinois. So how do you pick your poison in that with Jaden? Because he does get to the line so much. He's so effective at getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, you take him going 3 for 10 from the field again, which was what happened in Champaign. So at least credit to Illinois in some sense. But yeah, he got into the lane, was able to draw contact. It is another one of those, how's this game going to be called? Are they going to let some of that go a little bit? And maybe Jaden doesn't get to the line as much, but you look at his stats, he's number 2 in the Big Ten in free throw rate. So that's something that he does game in and game out. As I was saying, they're putting him in a lot more ball screens. The last 3 games, he scored at least 21. And a lot of that is him operating off the pick and roll, which gives you kind of that decision of, do we go under his screens? He's a 41% three-point shooter, but you go under, it cuts off some driving lanes a little bit. It makes it easier, but it gives that perimeter shot. If you chase him around the screen, he's got a lane to the rim, and it puts a lot of stress on your big, especially on a night when you don't want Kofi getting into foul trouble. That could be certainly something that you don't want to mess with too much. So either way, whether it's Trent or DeMonte, you want to cut off that lane as much as possible. Ivy can get a little, there are nights where he gets a little jumpy or anxious and will take some tough floaters or runners, and that's what you want out of him. Don't let him get all the way to the rim. But this is a really, really darn good player. Transition, it's over, just like Io in terms of the explosiveness. Great player, really fun to watch, but you got to try to bottle him up as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think if they want to run an up and down game, in my eyes, that favors Purdue for what they're able to do. Now, last year we would have said that probably favored Illinois.
Yes.
And they got up and down and in transition really, really well. It is a little bit different team, but I do think Illinois can hang, especially if they're making threes. And I said that on Saturday against Indiana. They made some threes and they walked out of there with the win, and a convincing win at that. 17-point victory, the largest margin of defeat since 1956 against Indiana. I mean, you put this stuff in perspective, Derek, and it's pretty crazy to think about what Illinois is doing. And we're in the day-to-day of it, to grind a little bit. And I think fans maybe, have a little bit easier time just separating like the enjoyment factor of what this is and how good this team is. At least I hope they do, because we're witnessing history for what this is. I mean, if we would have been talking on this pregame show 5 years ago, at the end of the John Gross era, Illinois was going to win 13 of 15 Big Ten road games. What? Like, that? I mean, that is truly historic for what Illinois is doing. It's really incredible, Derek, for what they're performing. And if they can get this done tonight, they will then have a 2-game lead on Purdue in the Big Ten. And depending on what Wisconsin does, they're right there. But like, Illinois is in position to win its first Big Ten regular season title since 2005. Like, it's just perspective that I don't know. Sometimes I get lost a little bit in that because we're in the day-to-day of it. But like, we're witnessing history here, man.
No, that's a great point. You're going to look back. You said historic. It is a run here of road success. You can throw in their success against top 10 teams. There's a stat in the game notes. They've won 7 of their last 8 against teams ranked in the top 10. I was scrolling through the record book up there. I have not seen. You can go back to 89 when Illinois was on top. Go back to 05, that stretch. You haven't seen that in terms of 7 out of 8, and you win this 8 out of 9 against teams ranked in the top 10. And I think also you think about Archie Miller, Brad Underwood, Chris Holtman all coming to the league at the same time. Archie Miller, not to hate on him too much, but I mean, he's on Twitter doing live streams with Field of 68, and like, Indiana's in a tough spot trying to new coaching regime and everything, and Illinois is at the very, very top of this race. And I know that they got to do it in March. They got to do the NCAA tournament to really have something to, not that you can't hang your hat on a Big Ten title, and win tonight will go a long way. And I think taking a pretty firm grasp on that. I know that Wisconsin's up halftime at Michigan State. They would still only have 3 losses in the league, but I don't know. I think that in my mind, I think a lot of people's mind, Purdue and Illinois clearly the most trustworthy top teams in the Big Ten. You put a 2-game gap in between you and them, you should win at least a share in the league, I would imagine.
Yeah, and we're getting closer to tip-off here. The band's getting going. They are right behind us. It's going to be loud in here tonight. That's what I know for sure. Derek, I did some research a while back. This was 126, so about 10 days ago. Underwood is 5th year, 10-9 against top 10 teams. Gross in 5 years, 3-14. Weber was 8-23. Just to put it in perspective, Lou Henson in 21 years, 21-55. Like, it's history, man. And it's incredible for what they're able to do and what the culture of Brad Underwood has been able to instill here. That going on the road against a top 10 team like this, they expect to win. That has not been the case for a long time for what Illinois has been able to do. I mean, like I said, just put that in perspective. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, and to be able to come in here when they're number 3 in the country, and what success they had, I mean, like you said, like going to the toughest environments in the Big Ten, this team will not be fazed. They will expect to win. They will not be intimidated by that, and they have a proven track record of being able to go in there and beat the top of the top. And we'll see. It would not be a shock, albeit Purdue favored by 5.5 or 6 points tonight. Would not be a shock for Illinois to win this game. And also to think about last year, Brad was able to say, I know that there are times where he embellishes a little bit and plays the media game, but he said we have the best player in the country in Iowa. And you could maybe not have argued with him, or at least understood where he was coming from. He could say the same thing about Kofi this year. It's just a rarity to have those type of players, to have Trent Frazier, a guy who's going to be remembered for a long, long time, a 1,500-point scorer and whatnot. It's just a very memorable stretch of Illinois basketball and a chance to further on what this story is tonight.
And it's been fun to cover along the way. We will continue to cover it with our Your Illini Nation pregame shows all throughout the rest of March. And I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, like you said, get back to me in March. The Loyola loss still sings for Illini Nation, and they want more. And we evaluate what seasons are based on March and single elimination tournaments. But I, for one, have been trying to join the ride of just like what this is in context for what Illinois has been for the last decade, really, when you think about it. All right, you mentioned Trent Frazier. I want to talk about Andre Curbelo a little bit, too. I know Jeremy wrote on Illini Inquirer about Curbelo and coming back, and Underwood talked about him yesterday, and just that process of trying to get back. What do you expect from him? He's played 12 minutes in back-to-back games. Can we expect more? Is it fair to expect more now as he gets back and he's off COVID for 10, 12 days now? What are you going into tonight wanting to see from him?
You're hoping you can get more from him tonight because his performance against Purdue was really, really key. offense. So, like you said, 12 minutes in each of the last 2 games. You'd feel better if he was able to take the Purdue performance and really build on that, which he's not been able to do because of COVID. I think you're going to need him to play well tonight. I think you're going to need him to play more than that. If he only knocks down threes, it's not going to be like Carmelo or Bus in terms of getting the win, but I think he's a big key tonight. You're going to need a lot from him.
Yeah, and we didn't know what to expect in that first matchup in Champaign, and then he comes out and puts up a career high in points, and I was like, okay, is he back already? Like, what can we expect from this every game going forward? Then he gets COVID. I don't think that was necessarily fair to expect him to come out and score 20-plus points every single night, because it's like Underwood said, his conditioning's just not there yet. They're trying to get him back. He didn't do anything for 2 months with the post-concussion symptoms. Then he didn't do anything for 10 days off the COVID. It's like, okay, well, where's he going to be at? We'll see. Like you said, I think it's a big key for Illinois tonight. If Andre can even give you, like, what's a fair estimate? 20 minutes, 8 to 10 points? Like, if he makes 4 baskets tonight, I feel like that's really positive. Let's say if he's 4 for 8, let's say, or 4 for 10, I would feel really positive about what that means for Illinois tonight.
Absolutely. He can give you 18 to 20 minutes, even if it's 15 to 20, 8 points, 4 assists, cuts back on, doesn't have turnovers, doesn't have mistakes that lead to runouts. That'd be a really nice boost for, especially Trent Frazier might need a little bit of time, could probably enjoy a little bit of time off the ball with how much he's going to have to exert, imagining that it's either going to be his assignment to chase Sasha or stay in front of Jaden Ivey. So, and then just knowing what Curbelo opens up for everyone else, not just Kofi, but that creates a two-on-2 game. When you're playing pick and roll, Curbelo and Kofi, you usually have to cheat off, and that opens up for shooters like Granderson, like DeMonte, like Plummer. I just think that impact can be very, very valuable against a team that can really bring it up offensively like Purdue can.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, a good point against Trent Frazier, just the fact that he has such a tough assignment, Derek, and that's going to take something from him defensively. Now, Bret Underwood said he doesn't worry about Trent and his conditioning. I would agree. I mean, that dude plays almost 40 minutes every single night, doesn't seem to get phased, which is a big credit to Trent. But I think you do take something a little bit off of your offense. Unless you're just in Trent Frazier heater mode, I think when you have a tough matchup like he's going to have tonight, I do think it takes a little bit off of your offense, because you got to be so locked in defensively, and we've seen Trent Frazier do that throughout the last couple of years of his career, that we know what we're going to get from him, and Illinois knows that he's going to be a lockdown Trent, right, essentially. Night off is what a lot of people have been calling him in that, as Illinois is on the court here. Purdue not, and I still don't see the officials. We know DJ Cartington's going to come out at some point here. As we get ready for tip-off, we are 37 minutes and 42 seconds away from Illinois and Purdue. Derek, what do you guys got on the site leading up to here to tip-off? I know a lot of people interested in this game tonight, and I want to say, too, this is on ESPN, and that, like, Illinois plays on national TV a lot, but when it's a top 15 matchup, when you're on the 8 o'clock game, I feel like, especially, the 6 o'clock, sometimes people are getting home from dinner, maybe they pick it up at halftime. I feel like all eyes are going to be on this game, and especially the end, because Scott Van Pelt Sports Center comes on right after this. You're going to have a whole lot of eyes on this. So what can people get a little pregame reading in here on Illini Inquirer before we get started?
Got the full breakdown on the side of my 3 keys in a pick. I know Jeremy wrote about Andre Curbelo and trying to find his way back and battle through the conditioning and just understanding his role. And Joey also did a feature recently on Jacob Granderson. So all 3 of us are here tonight. We'll have all the coverage and reaction of post-game to this one, and podcast as well. So I know you guys got a podcast. Check us out. Check you guys
Everybody's
out.
Got a podcast.
Everybody's got a pod.
That's right.
Never too much Illini basketball listening, especially when they're as good as they are.
Especially when they're this good, right? So we'll have all that coming up afterwards. Plus, the post-game press conference, we will carry that live on these same digital channels right here from Mackey Arena. Tune in to hear what Bret Underwood has to say, win or lose, after the game. All right, what'd you pick? Who you got tonight, Derek?
I'm going with the Boilers. I got Purdue 78, Illinois 74. I think it'll be a high-level game. I think Illinois is very capable of pulling it out, but I think the home team will win tonight, and they'll meet again during the Big Ten tournament. Okay. Maybe semifinals, maybe finals, but I'll get Purdue this one.
Okay, sign me up for that in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis, just down the road here in the Hoosier State, coming up in, I mean, a month from now, we're in the Big Ten tournament, right? Like that, man, that is going to be so much fun for what that will be. Derek, I'm going to go against you tonight. I think Illinois is going to win. I think they're going to be hungry. I think it's going to be a 79-77 game. Illinois is going to walk out of here with a 2-point win. We'll see what comes of it. 35 minutes now away from tip-off. I'm pumped up. You ready?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's go. For Derek Piper, I'm Bret Beherns. Thanks so much for watching the Your Illini Nation pregame show. Enjoy the game, everybody, and we'll see you right back here afterwards for the post-game stream on these same digital channels. Enjoy the game, everyone.